Samsung Galaxy S25 series was released on the 22nd January 2025, and I know if you have been subscribed to this channel, you want to understand what it's all about, the new things it's coming with, and how it's better than last year's phone. Well, I know I told you guys I was going to be at the event myself, but due to some reasons, I was not able to attend it. And so I figured out that if I wasn't able to attend the Galaxy Unpacked, and one of the best creators did and explained what the S25 is, why don't I react to that video? And I know you might be thinking, instead of watching my video, why don't you just go right to the video and watch it? Yes, you could also do that, but this video is to further explain what he has said in his video. And so without further ado, let's get right into the video, guys.
This is the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and honestly, the moment you pick it up, you can tell that this thing is a slicker, neater, better designed phone than last year's. But it's a pretty substantial upgrade. The S25 Ultra is 15 grams lighter than the S24 Ultra. It's enough to notice for sure. It's 0.4 millimeters thinner, which makes this the thinnest Ultra phone that Samsung has ever made. It's got a stronger titanium body thanks to a new, more compacted molecular structure and 29% tougher Gorilla Glass Armor 2 on the front, which is a pretty dicey one to test, but Samsung is saying that when they first introduced Gorilla Glass Armor last year, they noticed immediately that when those new phones were coming in for repair, there was 60% less damage on average on the screens of those phones, thanks to this armor glass. So, you know, a further 29% improvement on that, well, it's not gonna hurt. Now, to be really honest, I think the colors are a complete miss. They're all boring. They tried to make them interesting with the names, like the hero color is called Titanium Silver Blue, and this one is Titanium White Silver. Let's call a spade a spade. It's grey. Plus, they've coloured the back panels, but not the sides, which to me just makes these all look like, you know, those badly matched refurbished cardboard.
Okay, I might just have to agree with Mrwhosetheboss on this, because while we do color the back and there's nothing on the frame. I don't know if they want to be minimalistic, but don't be minimalistic with my $1,300 phone. And I don't know if any of you have actually seen it, but the curve on this phone is actually far better than the curve on the S24. The S24 was kind of not all that curvy, but they also actually eliminated another curve that we love from the S24. And going forward, I think we'll see this going forward. So let's just jump right back into the debate.
Extremely happy to see that after about 5 years of subjecting us to a slow, steady form of hand torture, Samsung has finally rounded off the corners of their phone, which, as obvious as a solution as that was, does make this feel more designed for their core demographic. You know, humans. But then when I properly started using the thing, I realized it's only a half improvement, since in the process of chopping off the corners, they've also chopped off these slightly rounded.
Honestly, I don't know if I am a guru or anything. I have never watched this, and this is blind watch, and I'm just watching this directly and filming this for you guys. This is what I just said, right? In the process of making everything rounded for us, they also eliminated that round curvature that we used to really love, because when you're holding the phone, it felt kind of smooth in your hands. Kind of they introduced another smoothness and eliminated the smoothness that we all love.
Sides of the S24 Ultra, so those are now flat and sharp. To be fair to them, the flatness does give the phone a very clean, futuristic silhouette when you look from the front, but it does come at the cost of it still not being close to as comfy to hold as, you know, these more pebble-like phones like the Google Pixel 8a. Tell you what is very nice to see, the bezels are now even tinier, 15% smaller than the ones on the S24 Ultra, which is a small improvement, but still fantastic, because it means that within this thinner, lighter, less painful body, we are now also getting a slightly larger screen.
The S24 on the right and the S25 on the right looks so different, although they are just 1 year apart. And can you see that bezel difference? That bezel difference doesn't look so big, but it's very, very influential, because the S24 has 6.8 inch and the S25 has 6.9 inch. No matter of a difference, but it actually looks more aesthetically pleasing than how it looks last year.
8 inches to 6.9. Nice. And then you interact with the software. So last year with the S24 Ultra, one of the most impressive things about this phone was not actually the hardware, but more just how much Samsung had upgraded their One UI Android skin. It felt like a complete modernization. It was prettier, it was faster, it was more customizable. And somehow, I feel like they've made another similarly massive jump again this year. The S25s will ship with Samsung's latest One UI 7, and I freaking love it. It feels like this company has finally understood that we don't want our phones to look corporate, we want them to look bright and fun, we want them to be intuitive, and most of all, we want them to look as naturally clean as possible. And they've delivered. The new software feels more visually consistent, while being functionally even more customizable. You can now do what feels like...
Now tell me this is not clean. Tell me this is not clean.
anything you want with your widgets. Your quick settings now look more organized, and again, now have practically unlimited rearrangeability, and it is so fast. I never really felt like speed was an issue last generation, but this is in a new league altogether. It screams. You get the same 7 years of major Android updates, so that's all the way to Android 22, which, to be honest, I don't even want to think that far ahead. And One UI 7 also plays a pretty big role in the new AI features. So I think it's pretty fair to say that with last year's phones, Samsung came in and they...
So are you guys seeing the Oppo phones that were just released? Those phones were really super fast, and they were marketed based on their fastness. This is looking to compete with that, or maybe even better. That's how good their One UI 7 is.
Set the benchmark for smartphone AI. The AI suite on this phone, while of course still very early days, it stayed ahead of everything else released in 2024. And seeing what the S25s are able to do, I would say there is a not insignificant chance that that trend continues. I don't think it's all great, but there is so much interesting AI stuff here that we can actually split what you're getting on the S25s into 3 subcategories. So the first is something called cross-app action, which is exactly what it sounds like. It means that you can now hold down your power button and give your phone a command that spans 2 different apps. So for example, when's the next Rick Astley concert? Add it to my calendar. And it will perform the search online, it'll find the details you're looking for, it'll strip out just the info you need and paste that info in an intelligent way into your calendar. Now the impression I get is that this is a Google feature that will come to other Android phones too. But what Samsung has done is worked with Google to make sure that Samsung's native applications, like Samsung Notes, can also be controlled by this. Now, I do think this feature is going to need work. I think it's a few years off being where it wants to be. Like, just for example, if you look closer here, you'll realize it's actually added a concert date to my calendar that is in the past. And even though this isn't final software and it will get better at launch, these are exactly the kinds of issues that you would expect to happen when you let your apps communicate with each other unsupervised. That said, once this does get to a stage where you could completely rely on it, does this not immediately feel like the next obvious era of the smartphone? This kind of intelligent life companion is exactly what these companies have been blabbering on about for over a decade. I mean, life companion was literally the tagline of the Galaxy S4, but now is the first time where it might actually make sense. I guess sometimes the 16th marriage is the one.
Samsung was able to achieve it with their personalized data engine. So what this does is basically communicate across every single app that is on your phone to be able to work together. So I could literally tell my phone that for a specific concert in UK at this time, maybe on this day, and add it to my notes, and after adding it to my notes, send it to my friend on WhatsApp. And then your Samsung is able to do that without stress. This is something that you couldn't do on any phone until now, and Samsung has actually taken the leap forward to doing this.
This AI equation are what I would call the iterative upgrades. So these are things that Samsung phones could already do that are now just better. So with the S24s, there was a smart select feature that let you tap on a part of your screen and the phone would just be able to highlight the thing of interest without all the rest of the fluff around it. Kind of like an intelligent screenshot. Well, now you have AI select, which doesn't even need you to tap on the screen, and it can also instant convert whatever you're looking at, ready to send it to someone else. Like you can tap drawing assist, and I think this is super impressive. You can reimagine that image in a different style without even needing to mess around with downloading it first, or even turn the video that's playing on your screen into a GIF for easier shareability. You can now generate custom one-of-a-kind stickers for when you text people. Everyone's favorite assistant Bixby now understands more natural language. I wouldn't call it a major leap forward, but it does build on this idea that your phone is becoming this assistant that you can just talk to in a very human way and assume that it will understand what you want. Circle to search was another thing that came last year. Well, that can now also be used to pick up the background music in a video that you're watching on your phone. It's not dissimilar from what you can already do with apps like Shazam, but it's nice to have it in one place. When you're calling someone,
this is much more easier to use than Shazam, because when I have Google on my phone already and I can just enter into the security search and find my music, it is way more simpler than going to download Shazam and using it. Is it ready to take Shazam's work away from it? I don't think so, because Shazam actually helps you to connect to a streaming service like Apple Music for you to find and add the music to your playlist. But I don't think the Google feature would actually allow you to connect to a streaming service right away without stress. It will find the music for you definitely, but is it going to add it to your playlist? I don't think so. So Shazam, watch your back. Google and Samsung is coming for it.
Texting-like format, and you can even search through that entire convo to find specific nuggets or use AI to summarize it all. I really like this one. In the browser, there's a new option in which the phone will both use AI to summarize the page that you're on and then also read that summary out aloud back to you. Only thing is, Samsung really needs to improve their AI speech engine. Like, if you compare how natural ChatGPT's voice communication is compared to Samsung's, it's like a world apart. And then finally, for photos, the generative editor is now a little bit faster and quite a lot better at both removing distractions, but also, just as importantly, filling in the remaining void in a way that you can't even tell that they were there in the first place. And then Samsung's got this feature called Drawing Assist, where you make images, and this has now also been upgraded to allow you to use any combination of photos you've already taken, drawings with your stylus, and words to form your final output. There is now so much happening here that no one person is going to use all of these AI features. You might literally use one, but I'm at least happy to see that it doesn't feel like the priority is on just adding a ton.
I think that generative effect was my favorite on the Samsung, because I could imagine a lot of pictures. I'm not a great painter though, but I could imagine a lot of images and pictures with that effect. So if you have never used this feature, you should try it. It could send you from the worst artist to maybe one of the best artists.
Gimmicks. For almost all of the stuff, I can see why someone might find it useful. And then the third AI pillar is that the AI on the S25s is finally personalized. And this is going to need a lot of detailed testing, but it feels like you are from the airport that you need to go to, and that the things that you have Google searched for. So whether or not the execution is there, we need to find that out. Do you see what I mean about the level of thinking here? It definitely feels innovative as opposed to iterative. Samsung did also, while announcing this, spend quite a lot of time going on about how securely the whole thing handles your data, and it probably does. But regardless, this is also definitely a turning point in terms of how much access you're giving to the company. To become more useful, it is also having to become more invasive and expensive. Galaxy AI is only going to be free till the end of 2025. And so the implication is that they will then start charging a subscription. And considering how soon that's coming, I'm pretty shocked that we still don't know what we will be charged for and how much it's going to cost. It could be $3 a month or it could be $20. My best guess is that the AI tasks that are done on device will carry on being free, and then any ones that have to access the cloud will become paid. But even if that is the case, then that still leaves most of the best AI.
Whoa. So we're going to be paying for Galaxy AI. Google Gemini will be free for all Samsung users for 6 months, and they'll have 2 TB of cloud storage.
AI features locked behind a paywall, which would also explain why Samsung is investing so much in trying to become a leader in the space. You know, they see AI as a big part of their future income. But given that we don't know the answers yet, let's just put all that aside for a minute. What about the hardware of the S25 Ultra? The stuff that, if you buy this phone, you actually own. Well, if you'd asked me what the single best standout thing about the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra was, I'd have said hands down, the screen. All flagship phones have had brilliant screens with crazy brightness and high refresh rates for ages now, but the two things that have separated Samsung's are, one, the durability, which is improved now, but also two, this anti-reflective coating that isn't nearly as gimmicky as you might expect it to be. This coating felt like it single-handedly cut away 50% of screen reflections, which in turn made the screen so much clearer than the rest. And that coating has now been upgraded again with the S25 Ultra. I wouldn't say the difference is as transformative as the jump last year, but really at this point it's just further cementing Samsung's display lead, with also now completely new Hop 3 display technology. No one's used it before, but Samsung's talking about this like it's some kind of miracle compound, saying that it should dramatically increase the touch response rate, image quality, and also battery efficiency of the screen. The battery itself, by the way, is still the same 5,000 mAh cell as before, which is good. They're saying that thanks to all the efficiency improvements, you can expect an extra hour of video playback per charge compared to even last year's phone, and it makes sense that they haven't expanded the battery given, the thinner design, the thinner bezels, and the need to also fit an S Pen inside of here. However, I do also have a feeling that this is the year where we're going to start seeing the baseline for phone batteries go up significantly, which means that while Samsung was at the very top of the battery wars leaderboard last year, I'm doubtful it's going to stay at the top this year. And on a similar note, one thing that this phone doesn't have, which honestly at this point I just find puzzling, is magnetic charging. Apple has had it since 2020, and if you are going to wireless charge, this is just a better way of doing it, since it allows you to hold your phone up sideways, and it improves the efficiency of the wireless charging. Thankfully, the Taurus O-Stand 360 case, our sponsor, actually grants the phone that ability, which suddenly opens up a whole new landscape of accessories. I've been using this type of Taurus case on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. I used it on my Samsung before.
So I don't understand why Samsung phones doesn't still have magnetic charging. They may want to wait till some certain time to bring it, because that's what Apple also does every single time. But I think we are in 2025 and magnetic charging should be the list. I could literally do this on my iPhone X or something. This is crazy, guys. This is really crazy. To hear that this is not on the S25 is kind of appalling.
And the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy chip, which is effectively a big power upgrade combined with a few little extra tweaks specifically for these S25 phones. The main thing though is just the Snapdragon 8 Elite is enough of a jump from last year, 30 to 40% depending on how you're measuring it, that it's kind of like moving up a whole new tier. This is the point where Android is back on track and in a lot of ways now actually ahead of Apple's performance. Been a long time since that was the case. The one thing to watch out for is just that some early devices that have had this chip have had thermal issues, which is probably why at the same time Samsung has fitted this phone with a 40% larger vapor chamber and a new thermal interface material for faster heat dissipation. Whether or not that saves it, we'll have to wait for the full.
This was exactly the same size as last year's phone. So where does the 40% increase in vapor chamber comes from? Now, this is what makes us understand the work that goes into designing the phone, designing the hardware. It's not only about the software part of the phone, but designing the hardware, because it has to move from the same size to the same size this year, and we're able to fit in 40% larger vapor chamber into it. Now, if you don't know what a vapor chamber is, it's basically that thing that allows your phone to cool down and prevent it from overheating. So nobody likes overheated phones. And if you're using one of those XRs, you know what I'm saying.
But then, as well as that core performance perk, Samsung has also been working with the chip maker to add in 2 extra features. The Pro Scaler, which uses AI to basically upgrade any content that you watch on your screen. Like if something's really low resolution, your chip will apparently notice and figure out how to upscale it without you even needing to think about it. It's similar tech to what Samsung's 8K TVs use, although I would be lying if I said I could actually notice the difference in person. But then, also the camera. The chip is also supposedly tuned to specifically improve the low light performance in Samsung's phone, which big if true, but I will only believe it when I see it. Speaking of which though, good to see that Samsung hasn't completely forgotten about cameras amidst all the AI hoo-ha. So the most obvious change is the 12 megapixel ultrawide has finally become a 50 megapixel ultrawide. Now they are about 3 years behind a lot of other phones in getting there, but this is great news because the ultrawide was always the ugly duckling of Samsung's camera system, and it's now being upgraded not just improves the ultrawide shots, but there's also a dramatic resolution bump to close-up macro shots since it uses the same camera. And then, at least based on what Samsung is saying, the even bigger camera changes are the things that you can't see. So their underlying software, the Pro Visual Engine, has been upgraded, which they're saying means significantly faster shooting and also better quality and smoother zoom shots by inserting extra frames in between the animation. And the smoother aspect I can attest to. The better aspect is...
Guys, last year's Samsung phone, although it was very, very good, but I can just tell you right here and right now that the zoom wasn't actually very encouraging, because when you are changing from one lens to another when trying to zoom, it actually lags. While the iPhone 15 and above have a better and smoother experience when you are moving from one lens to the other while zooming. So this is a kind of big upgrade for Samsung phones. And I also want to talk about the log. The log feature is actually very useful. Someone might say it has already been on the iPhone 15. I know that, but you can't actually do it in 8K. Somebody might say, oh, 8K is useless. Why do we have a screen resolution that can't actually pay 8K, but we can actually record in 8K? I don't think anybody recording in 8K would be recording in 8K for his phone screen. Like you get what I'm saying? Yes, so 8K useful. Log is basically that feature that allows you to like record in the rawest form that you can for your video. So whilst editing, you could actually do that in a very dynamic way. So now what is the Samsung S25 bringing to us, and why is it better than the Samsung S24? I think this is a huge change. Say, I suspected it's not going to be a huge leap like the Samsung S23 to the Samsung S24, because they did something that was very impressive, and that is the AI features. And Samsung is just that guy. I know this is not very detailed, but I'm actually going to create my own video explaining everything about the S25. But till then, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Zenon and I'm Shes. I'm both of them. Anyone you want to call me. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh yes, our handsy.